Here we go. Game week. You always, the buys are unique in that there's a lot of self-reflection, and there's also a preparation of your opponent. So you're kind of multitasking, doing two things at once. And the uniqueness of this week, obviously being a Thursday night game, this game comes much quicker, and so. Normally I'm here talking to you guys about the last ball game and then what the week should look like. Well, we've got a lot of work in already, and there's not much time left until the ball game. So that being said, I think it was a good bye week. We addressed things internally that I thought needed to be addressed that will help us Thursday night when we take the field. We've had a nice preparation for Stanford, a very good football team. Extremely well coached, and excited for the game. This is the first day of school today. Fired up for the atmosphere Thursday night at CenturyLink Field with the blackout, the dog pack in full effect. Should make for a great atmosphere on national television. I know our kids are looking forward to the challenge, and can't wait to get started.
Questions?
Why is it so hard to run against Stanford?
They're good.
What do they do what are they so good at?
Like all good run defenses, they're disciplined one. They've got good personnel up front. They have great length that allows their guys to utilize the two-gap scheme that they like to play in a 3-4 defense. And then they tackle. I think that those are pretty common ingredients to stopping the run. They're not doing anything earth-shattering schematically. They're disciplined in what they do. They're sound in what they do. They have the personnel to fit what they do, and then ultimately they make their plays.
Chris got loose twice last year for you. Why was he able to get loose on those plays, and why did you struggle otherwise to run?
Well, I'd like to think that we designed a couple pretty good plays, that allowed us to create some space against that defense, which is hard to do. I would have liked to think that if the score hadn't been what it was and the game didn't get out of hand, that maybe we could have ran the ball more than we were able to. And when you're trying to come back and the way that the score went of that game, I think we had some other stuff there for ourselves. But unfortunately, when you're trying to play catch up and get back in the game, we weren't able to do that. So, I would like to think that maybe we had some other runs there for us. But as those games go, you have to try to catch up.
Steve, I know you play the hand you're dealt, and when you look at programs like Stanford and they show depth chart where there's only 3 sophomores, the rest are juniors and seniors, is it tough to maybe get a little envious and go, man, we'd love to have that kind of experience?
We'll be there. We'll be there someday, and we're not that far away from that. We're just, where they restructured their program and where we restructured our program, they're a couple of years ahead of us. When Coach Harbaugh came in and really turned that thing over and had a plan for what they wanted to get done, and then Coach Shaw picked up right where Coach Harbaugh left off and has done a great job. They're a couple of years ahead of us. In 2 years from now, we'll be a pretty veteran group as well. And so as of right now, we're a young, talented team, and that's the way we play.
Did you play the game film last year's Stanford game to kind of get these guys extra motivated?
We look at it from a schematic standpoint. They've obviously got systems in place on offense and defense and special teams. And we do offensively and in special teams. Obviously, we're a bit different defensively. And so you look at the film from a schematic standpoint, maybe from a personnel standpoint. But this is a different team. They're a different team, and we shouldn't have to use those types of things to motivate our guys. I mean, we should be pretty well motivated internally.
Steve, what particular challenges or maybe changes that over this first day of class how you coach these guys?
We've been so wired into the morning practice schedule. Even though when we've been going in training camp and different things, we've had really early AM walkthroughs to get our guys accustomed to it, and then practiced a little later in the morning. But I'm hopeful that the challenges aren't nearly as big as they have been in the past. This is part of the reason why we went to the AM practice format, so that our guys could be fresh and energized at the start of the morning, really focused on football, and then have the rest of the day to get their classwork done. So I don't know exactly yet, Greg. Probably a better answer, 3-4 weeks down the road to see how our guys respond to it. But I know they did a nice job in responding to it in spring football when we went to the AM practices when school's in session. And I don't think there was a kid on our team who wanted to go back to the afternoon practices. They loved having the AM practices, and so that's why we stuck with them here for the fall.
When you watch the USC Stanford film, how much of what Stanford was able to do in disrupting their pass game had to do with what they did in secondary versus what their front seven was able to do?
I think it was a combination of both. I thought Stanford did a nice job of playing, I don't want to call it double coverage, but really rolling coverages over the top of Lee and Woods. And to do that, you have to be stout up front. And if you're going to play a too high safety look and play over the top of receivers and almost in a double covered type setting, you have to be able to maintain the integrity of the defense in the box. And they were able to do both. And I think that's what became a bit frustrating for SC in that sense that they were doubling those guys, but they couldn't generate some stuff in the middle of the field and running the football. And then as momentum got going, just like any game, when you're an underdog and then late in the game you can create some adversity for your opponent and then feed off of that emotion, anything can happen. And I think that's what happened in that game.
Is there something that looks a lot different from them in the SC game than, say, the San Jose State game, where maybe they showed some more vulnerability or?
San Jose State didn't score a whole lot of points either. I don't remember exactly what that final score of that game was, but it was I think it was a 24-21 or 23-20 type ball game. And I think there's probably a couple plays SC would maybe love to have back that they just miss on and different things that maybe could have changed the complexion of that game, and maybe got them to 21 or 24 points. So similar, and I think San Jose State's a pretty good football team. We're coming to find out. So I don't know if that much changed. Their personnel hasn't changed on defense. They're playing the same guys. The scheme is their scheme, and so maybe the one thing that changed is they just played that much harder because it was at SC. It was SC, and it's a rivalry type game for them.
What was the process to get Dwayne Washington all set, and do you plan to redshirt him?
It was a process that was a long one. When you submit everything to the NCAA and you're kind of waiting on them. And we didn't think it would take this long. We brought Dwayne into our summer league program. He was here all summer working out with our guys, took a class this summer, but he wasn't cleared, and so we actually, we didn't think at that point if they didn't get it cleared that we just sent him home, and then hopeful that we could get him back in the wintertime in January, and when they notified us that he had been cleared. It's a real credit to our admissions process here and getting all the proper paperwork and everything put together and submitted to the NCAA, and Dwayne and his mother and Gar High School to make all that happen. And so we're excited to have him. We're just in the infancy stages with him. I've seen him on the practice field now for 3 days, and so I don't want to make that statement on him yet until I actually get to see him work a little bit. He's a great-looking kid. He's running fast, catching the ball today. We'll see what happens.
Steve, when you look at Stanford, offensively, defensively, special teams, what aspects of them do you say, okay, that's David Shaw, as opposed to that was what Jim Harbaugh was doing?
Good question, because I think, everybody, I think David is coaching that team to be his team. And I don't have exactly internally what they changed or what changed in the playbook or philosophically. I don't have those things. What I do know is that they have more so than ever dedicated themselves offensively to the big personnel groupings. It used to be interchangeable for them, and they'd sub out of it, in and out of it. They've really dedicated themselves to that. Now, I don't know what the 49ers are doing. I don't have a chance to watch them if that's what they've done as well. So I'm not sure, but I do know that they've dedicated themselves to it, to where it's a lot of big guys all the time, even in some really obvious passing situations. Their tight ends are remaining on the field, and they're their pass catchers. So that part, more so than they've ever been in the past, is something that is unique to David.
Do you feel that some of the younger guys on the offensive line who had to play a lot more against Portland State, the bye week and everything, do you feel, are they more comfortable maybe heading into this game now?
I'm hopeful of that. I mean, we've really challenged them, not only mentally but physically. And I think the bye week was good for them to assess their performance in the Portland State game and then what they needed to work on. We've seen definite improvement there. But again, time will tell. We'll find out Thursday. They've got a great task ahead of them. Stanford's front is tremendous.
The school didn't list Colin Tanigawa on the depth chart this week. Do you have any comment on that?
Colin will be out the remainder of the season.
Travis Cruz is also officially listed on the depth chart. Is he starting to take a little more control of that running job, or is it still?
I know Thursday night number 46 is going to punt for us.
Is there a little strategy that goes into that with 2 46s?
Not really. There's so many times with numbers. Guys are double numbers all over the place, and they're hard to find numbers. I have a hard time when a punter or kicker is wearing like number 98 or something. It doesn't look right to me, So to get them in a decent number, we'll take it.
That being said, with the big possibilities and all the different things that you can do with the punters and kickers and what have you, are you surprised that schools haven't tried to double up that and use it as,
There's so many things out there that surprise me every Saturday. I learned stuff this weekend watching games. I was watching Louisiana Monroe, I think, against Baylor Friday night, and they were playing with 2 quarterbacks at the same time. One was left-handed, one was right-handed, and they were running zone read with pass routes down the field. And so nothing surprises me what guys do or don't do anymore, especially in college football. They're very innovative, and especially offensively. And so everybody's just looking for an edge, I think, to find a way to get another first down.
Make you wish you'd done that with Jake?
Huh?
Did it make you wish you'd done that with Jake?
No, I'm thinking about recruiting a left-handed quarterback now, because they had guys throwing righty and lefty. So depending on the hash they were on, one guy would play quarterback, and the other one would play running back, and they go to the other hash and they'd switch it. So pretty unique.
What have you seen from Nunez?
It's funny because you see from him some of the same mannerisms as Andrew Luck had, and you can tell that they do a very good job of coaching the position because the quarterback looks similar. That the way he handles himself at the line of scrimmage, the mechanically and technically how he delivers the football. Something that jumps out at me, if you noticed in the game, a couple of the quarterback scrambles on 3rd down kind of reminded me of Andrew Luck. The way Andrew, when things weren't there, would pull the ball down and take off and run. So I'm seeing a lot of those same mannerisms come out of him. I think that he's a guy who's made 3 career starts, and he's made a couple big plays and big passes in that SC game, probably his first big ball game that way. So he's a good player.
Is Sept and Taylor, is he as important to their attack as Chris Polk was to you guys last year?
Probably similar in that, you look at the guy, he's not only leading them in rushing, but he's leading them in receiving. And the screen game is a big part of what they do offensively. I thought was probably one of the bigger factors for them offensively against SC was their ability to hit some screens to Taylor out of the backfield. So I would imagine Coach Shaw would say the same thing. He's an integral part to what they do.
Where's the pass rush at? You wanted to talk about improving it to the bye week. Where's that at now?
Well, I think it's been good. I think that we've addressed some things technically of what we're doing. I don't know if this is the best week to get a real assessment of that when you're playing Power I football. But ideally this week, if we can force them into some 3rd long situations and allow our guys to rush the passer, I'm hopeful, and I think that it'll show up that our pass rush will be there. But we have to get to that point, and that's playing good on 1st and 2nd down.
And the eye test pregame you talked about before with the 2 sides, Stanford a whole lot like LSU.
Different, much different. Interesting stat. I think and I might be off here a couple numbers here, guys, but so you might have to double check this for me. But Stanford has, I believe it's 43 or 46 players 6'4" or taller on their roster. I think Oregon's at 36. I think ourselves and SC are at like 22 and 23. So that they've made it a real point to recruit taller players, longer players. And so that's the thing that'll jump out at you in pregame warmups is the height of their football team, the length of their football team. LSU is different that way. I don't know if they were necessarily that tall, but how physically gifted, the size, the explosiveness of their athletes was something in the eye test that jumped out at you.
Where does that show up the most, I guess, when Stanford plays?
Well, it shows up front, you know, especially on their defensive line. Their linebackers, they're all the taller, longer up front on offense, the tight end position. So, you know, I'd like to think we're getting closer to that number from where we were, from where we started to where we're headed. But they definitely have recruited to their defense. They're a 3-4 defense. Then outside of the nose tackle up front, just about every other guy is a long, tall defender, and that helps them in the run game.
Steve, when you guys decided to use some different fronts and use some 34, was their defense one of the defenses that you looked at to say, okay, that's some things that we could use?
Not as much. I mean, there's principles in 3-4 defense that carry over, whether it's the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Stanford Cardinal or Oregon Ducks for that matter. And then you have to take those principles and all those principles and what fits your personnel grouping. So I don't know if necessarily we just looked at Stanford, but the principles of 3-4 defense and then how you play it are going to hold true regardless of who you're watching. But right now our personnel and the way we look and the way we play 3-4 is not the same as what Stanford does.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.